Welcome to the MYS Virtual Hangout. Here's your host, MYS Music Director, Raul Gomez.
Hello, hello, hello. It's a very special day, my friends. Today, after this MYS Hangout, is the MYS Gala. And in addition, we have an extraordinary guest for our Hangout, Maria Garcia, extraordinary pianist and one of the most amazing collaborative artists that I've ever met. And I'm very excited to talk to her, and she's going to share about, of course, her artistic journey, but also, I'm so thrilled that she's doing this. She's going to talk to us about do's and don'ts of playing with a collaborative pianist, or really playing with other musicians in general, because so much of what we do boils down to collaboration. And working with a pianist that many of you young musicians do when they play for your juries or your recitals or your competitions is something, that's not foreign to most of you. But there's so much that we can learn from a collaborative pianist, especially of the caliber of Maria. So I'm very excited to talk to her. Before that, as always, I want to thank the folks who helped me create, or who actually created the video intro for this show. Felipe and Jose Julian Araya for video, Sam Mori for voiceover, and Griffin Barbieri for music. I have a few quick updates. One of them is that we blew right through our subscriber goal for our YouTube channel. We had a goal that we passed yesterday, so we extended the goal. We're at 352 right now. I would love to get to 360 before the end of this Hangout. And when we're done with this Hangout, I hope that all of you will go to the MYS Gala, which will be live streamed. And to find that stream, you can go to the MYS website, playmys.org. You'll find a link, and we'll be live starting at 5:30. And there are a bunch of things that are being auctioned to raise funds for the Metropolitan Youth Symphony, of course. One of them is a bench, a wood bench made by me. It's a garden bench. As those of you who watch this know, I'm an amateur woodworker. I love working with wood. And I made a garden bench for the gala last year, and that was fun, and we raised some funds for MYS through it, and I'm doing it again this year. And it's very exciting that I heard that there are already a few bids for my bench. It's one of two items that there's early bidding for, so you can go to the MYS website right now and go and place an early bid for my garden bench, and you'll see a photo of it there. I don't have it queued up right now, but because I'm gonna make it from scratch, also it's pretty customizable. So we can talk about what sort of dimensions you want and what sort of finish and all of that. So check that out. Also, at the MYS Gala at 5:30 today, you guys will witness the world premiere of the first ever MYS virtual performance. I'm so excited. I spent too many hours making this video, but it ended up looking and sounded so good. And I'm so excited. Let me show you, maybe show a screenshot on Facebook or Instagram. But let me see if I can do a quick, I didn't queue this up, but I think I can find that screenshot and put it up on the screen. We had most of MYS Symphony Orchestra participate, and I think I put it on the desktop. There it is. So I'm just gonna put it here on the screen. So check this out. This is just it's a screenshot of the video. I'm gonna go full screen for this for a moment. So all of these musicians from MYS Symphony Orchestra recorded at home their individual parts for Brahms, Hungarian dance number 5. We created a click track, so they were listening to a click track on their headphones, also with my voice sometimes, and I also played the first violin part also as part of the click track to serve as reference. So each one of them had that track on their headphones, and they recorded a video of their assigned parts. And we have a full orchestra, and it sounds like a full orchestra. It's really amazing. So to watch the world premiere of this music video, go to our gala page starting at 5:30. And again, you go to the MYS website and you'll find the link. This was so fun. And I love that a few of the musicians, I encouraged everybody to, be creative with their attire if they wanted to. And a few musicians in the orchestra did not disappoint with their creativity, and that will also be featured in this video that will premiere tonight. And I hope that many of you go and watch it. The gala is only 30 minutes, 5:30 to 6, and it's going to be a very fun program, and it will benefit MYS. So if you need one more reason to go to tune into the gala, that's this music video. It was so fun to make, and I think we'll make more, and I'm excited also to explore this format with other MYS groups. So anyways, I'll take that off the screen. So there you have it. So 5:30, go to the MYS website to get the link. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about Maria. And this is my 4th year in Portland. And at MYS, we have several events during the year where musicians, or young musicians, our concerto competition and certain auditions that our musicians are required to have a pianist. Master classes as well sometimes. And in addition to that, when I go and serve as a judge or an adjudicator at different competitions around the state, also I get to hear lots of young musicians with piano, with a collaborative pianist playing with them. And here in Portland, we're so lucky because there's a really amazing wealth of excellent pianists who do the very, very important work of playing with other musicians, and in the last 10, 15 years, I suppose, this has, we don't call these people just accompanists. We call them collaborative musicians. And in colleges, universities, and conservatories around the world, this is now a track of studies. You can, as a pianist, you can specialize in collaborative playing. PSU here has an excellent program with Chuck Dillard, and it's a very specific set of skills that these pianists need to have. And the bottom line is, an excellent collaborative pianist is an excellent musician, an excellent artist. And Maria, when I have heard her accompany young musicians, I'm always just blown away by her musicianship, her attention, how she listens and how she supports the young musician that she's playing with. And to have that to have somebody like Maria on your team when you're playing, in public, is such a great asset. I'm excited to talk to her for that reason. But also, like I said earlier, she does this so much and so often, and not only with young musicians, but with, some of the most amazing performers here in Portland and outside of Portland. She's done this season alone. I know that she and I were both, I was going to perform with Third Angle, but then this whole pandemic thing happened, of course. And I know Maria was also on the roster for this season with Third Angle, but she plays all over town, and it's always a joy to hear her, whether she's performing, in a, let's say, professional setting, or if she's working with young musicians. And I'm going to ask her to share with all of you some do's and don'ts of playing with an accompanist or with a collaborative pianist. So, it's 4:10. That means it's time to call Maria. So I have Skype pulled up here, and as always, let's cross our fingers that technology behaves. Okay, so here we go. Maria, I see you, but I don't think you can see me, can you? Uh, I, I, there, so you should be able to see me now, and I see you perfectly, and I hear you perfectly. So let me put you up on the screen. So there you are.
I don't hear you as well as I did this morning.
Oh, okay. I'm using a different mic, and I'll just make sure. Oh no, you know what? I know what's happening. I can fix it pretty quickly by doing this. How's this? Is this better?
Ahora sí, now yes.
Muy bien. ¿Cómo estás? Podríamos hacer toda la entrevista en español, ¿verdad? Oh. Okay. So now maybe I lost you. Oh. All right, folks. This is all part of the experience here. Skype crashed, so I'm calling her back. We get to experience that ringtone again. Sorry, I lost you. I think that was my fault.
Oh yeah, I'm just putting you on full screen. That's all.
Awesome. Well, it's great to see you. It's great to hear you. I dress up for you.
Oh my God. Well, I put lipstick. I washed my hair. But it's very dressy, and then I got sweatpants on.
Well, I guess I should confess that same here. I'm only wearing the top half of my tails.
Okay, well.
The definition of acceptable, attire for teleconferences is evolving with time.
Yes, it's evolving.
Right? So thank you for being on the show. I was just telling everybody how awesome you are.
Oh, thank
And
you.
we have so many young musicians who have the incredible luck to work with you. And I also, every time I hear you perform, either solo or in other, professional settings, I'm always just floored by your artistry and your musicianship. So thank you for taking time to do this.
Gracias. Thank you.
So how's it going? So you've been teaching online, yeah?
Yeah, I started teaching online. I think it was I think my first lesson was like March 9th. I was thoroughly freaked out. Even a solo and ensemble, and I still had some performances now, which are all been canceled into the foreseeable future. But I had some performances, and I had to go to play for kids like solo and ensemble. That was big, and I feel so bad for all these talented students who won't be able to do state at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Which is just really just so sad. Anyway, but I was like way back. I was going with my Clorox. I was like, I remember being at Mountainside High School and being like, excuse me, I'm just gonna sanitize this. And I'm usually not a germaphobe. Like, I'm really not a germaphobe. Like, if you know me and you come to my house, it's like very moderately cleaned. But yeah, so I started teaching online. I think my first lessons were like the 10th. So it's been quite a bit, and it's an experience.
Yeah, so like you mean like this was the first time you ever taught online as like
Never
a
taught.
lesson? Yeah, yeah, I know. We're all kind of figuring it out as we go.
Yeah, it's I find that obviously it has limitations. Like for example, it has the limitations of um, obviously the manual manipulation that you would have with the students when you're talking about technique or
Right.
phrasing, like lifting off in a beautiful way. Because physicality produces sound on an instrument. Especially a percussion instrument like
Yes.
piano, which is how you attack is very important. So that those limitations are still there, and obviously the sound quality, as much as you can get mics, is not the same.
Right.
But what I have found to be on the plus side, which I say now that I'm definitely going to continue doing it as a service in the future, is that first of all, you can get stuff done. Quite a lot. Um, the kids have so much time now that this is a time where they can really like practice more than they usually would. And what I have found is because it's more sort of filtered, the thread that you have with the student is so filtered through this sort of focal point. It forces them to be more, and they have to do a lot more. Like I can't go and write things on their music.
Right, right, right.
Engages their thought process a lot more, and I'm able to kind of fastidiously just look at them and be like, no, I'm sorry, but hold on, that pinky. Wait, I'm looking at it. Can you lift it? Lift. No, no, now it goes. Okay, thank you. You know, I can kind of like really, I look really weird because I'll go really close to the camera, really loud. Like somehow that's going to make the connection better, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you know the technology piece of this whole equation, right, is something that I mean there are, you know, you can get a, you know, a really good microphone, you can have a really good setup, and you can create conditions that are as ideal as possible, right? But there's something about music making in person, especially while teaching, right? Not only the, you know, the where you're talking about, you know, touch and all of that, but it's such a music making is such a human experience. It's such a, like, you know, even if you're working on your technique, or you know, it's, you know, you're creating sound through it's there's something so personal about it that I don't know if, you know, if as good as technology can get, if we will ever really be able to connect in that way.
Well, you know, for an instrument like piano, you know, where we don't, generally speaking, we meaning overall, it's a family of the percussion. It's a percussion instrument, right? When you see it in orchestra, it's always at the back with the percussion, right? Should, you know, we be lucky enough to be in the keys. But, you know, to play really beautiful music, you have to breathe.
Mm.
And you have to breathe through the keys, into the keys. You have to sing the phrase. And so that kind of, that may not necessarily be the most, the easiest thing to convey through technology. And that's something that has to be really conveyed through a more physical contact, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
You can recreate that by asking your students to sing the parts, you know. But with piano, because I always say, you know, you don't need to breathe, but you're going to pass out. And also, it's going to sound not as good if you don't breathe with your phrases, right? But anyway, but I'm happy that at least we have it. If I imagine this, like, if this had happened 30 years ago, you know, we'd have been all in our houses, like,
Yeah.
What do we do?
Yeah, yeah. So, Maria, you and I were talking earlier this morning, our little test call,
Yeah.
and you told me that you moved to when you moved to Portland, you had your daughter was 4 months old.
Yes,
So,
4.5.
okay, so where were you before, and how did you end up here? Will you give us your a little bit of your artistic journey?
Right, so I'm from Puerto Rico. Right, you can tell from my accent. I am not, I'm not a native speaker of the language, although I've spoken it all my life. So I went to school in Boston, and I lived in Boston. I did my bachelor's there, and then I went to Stony Brook. I did my master's, and I would say most of my schooling was East Coast. All of my schooling really was in the East Coast, and then I lived in New York City. I lived in Texas for a little bit. That's sort of like, you know, a boy, you know, following a boy thing, and I did several residencies at Banff. So, you know, and then I lived in London for a year, and I had a trio there. But the last sort of the biggest chunk of my adult life prior to here was in New York City, where I had gone to school. And so I said, oh, let me move to the city, let me see how it goes, you know. And so I lived there from 1998 to 2012 when I moved here. Now, why moved here? Why you asked me probably why I moved here. My husband is from Eugene. And I had come here many times previous to our, you know, having a child. And I always thought, oh my God, you know, And I never came to Portland per se, but I was always like, oh my gosh, the West Coast is so beautiful. People are so creative and free. And, when you live in a city like New York, you are creative and free, but you have to pay rent. And, you're like, okay, I got to keep this job. I got to do this. It's just like bustling, hustle and bustle. You bustle, bustle, and you burn out.
Yeah.
When you live in a city like New York, after, I felt like I had so many chapters. I had like 4 or 5 chapters, it feels. And so when we had a child, it just made sense to move closer to family. And so we opted for Portland rather than Puerto Rico. And so obviously by the way, I think my mom and dad are watching from Puerto Rico.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. So
Saludos, saludos a los dos.
saludos, sí. And so we moved here and I didn't know about earthquakes when I moved here. I thought they were solely to to California, but then I found out, and I was like, oh, okay. But I'm here, and I'm not moving. I don't feel like I'm moving anywhere. I love the East. I love the West Coast. For a while there, I remember like saying, oh, I want to drive to the beach, and driving east, and being like, oh no, there are mountains. Wait, I need to go the other way because
Other side.
my whole feng shui, you know what I mean? My whole feng shui. And I'm also from like the east coast of my town. In Puerto Rico, I'm from the east coast of the island. So for me, always, even though Puerto Rico, you can go anywhere around, it's always, water. For me, east is very much like water. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's sort of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2012, you came here.
Yeah. And then I had my baby. I was with my baby. So I didn't work for a little while. I just kind of, mothering is quite intense, as you well know, now that you have a child.
Right. Yeah.
Pretty intense.
Well, Maria, before we get into a bit more of the specifics of the many things that you can share with our young musicians, let's hear your 2 truths and a lie, the little game that we play for this show.
Right? Do you want me to read them?
Okay, so let me just, for anybody who's new to the show, Maria has prepared 3 statements, and she's going to read them out loud, one at a time. 2 of them are true, one of them is a lie. So your job, if you're watching, is to vote on the comments. And, maybe you know Maria, maybe you don't, but I think that even people who know you might have a little trouble with these.
Maybe.
So let's go ahead and reveal the first one.
So I believe I co-created a cheerleading squad in, I think it was either middle school or high school. One of those. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So that's up on the screen. Let's hear statement B.
The statement B is I speak 4 languages fluently.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's the order you have them in. And then the statement 3 is I have played a concert in a high security prison.
Okay, so there you have it. And so we actually have them. Statement A, the cheerleading. Statement B, the concert at the high security prison. Okay. Statement C, Maria speaks 4 languages fluently. So go ahead and vote if you're watching. Take your best guess. And while you guys do that, Maria, so many reasons why I wanted to talk to you, but one of them is that our audience, we have many young musicians watching. And I just wanted to ask you, just point blank, do's and don'ts when playing with a collaborative pianist. How can our young musicians be better collaborators and gain more from the experience?
Well, I was thinking about this as we discussed this morning, and pianists in general, I mean, you have an orchestra, and piano is such an orchestral instrument that is required for a lot of collaborative work. For example, you have concerto competitions, and you have all these things, and so most composers will sit down at the piano and they will create a whole score. That doesn't mean that they're fantastic pianists, but they have skills. You, as a composer, you have to have some skills. Now, I guess, I don't know, I mean, I'm not a composer per se. Maybe you GarageBand or one of these apps can sort of substitute for aptitude or skill level. But anyway, a composer, so piano is sort of a number 1 collaborative, I don't know if you had to rank it, but, orchestral most musicians will need to play with that collaborative pianist, whether they choose to do it in a chamber music setting per se, or whether they need it for, can I run through my concerto with you, or, I have a competition or something like that. So, it is different. It is different, but the same in a way that what I'm trying to say is sort of like when you come in for a rehearsal, say for example, you're playing Sibelius concerto, or you're playing that, or you're doing a piano trio. It's the same because you're playing chamber music. The nature of it perhaps is different because for me as a pianist, I'm playing a concerto. I'm not playing a piano trio, or it's a little bit different because this is an orchestral part that I'm playing. But nevertheless, one of the definite do's is for students is listen to the part. So when you're learning your part is a puzzle, right? Your part, when you're playing with orchestra, you are playing with myriad of musicians. So I always say the piano is the best instrument, second to the orchestra, because the orchestra is really the best instrument. So you have to prepare your part when you come to a rehearsal. Know your part. It makes my job easier. It makes it more fun because then we can create music, So the more you know how your concerto part, whether it be oboe or horn or whatever, how it fits with the orchestra, it's going to inform the way that you play it. Because, composers, when they compose, they think, they have motifs, they have little cells, musical cells, and then you see them reflected on the orchestra. And sometimes you're having a conversation with the orchestra. So, bar none, number one do is listen. Yeah. Listen with the score. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to listen with the orchestral score. Now, that's totally different. That is, if you're going to play with an orchestra, you want to listen with the orchestral score, because at that point, that whole conglomeration that you've been used to listening to the piano condensed then becomes different timbres. You have oboe. Oh, that's oboe solo, and now I come, right? Mm. So that's a definite do. So I guess my big do not is don't come not knowing what the orchestra, what the piano part sounds like. That's number one. I think that's sort of the biggest one. Generally speaking, another thing you can think about when you start listening to, the orchestra is how do you can even go further, because right now we're just talking about the sort of architecture, right? We're just talking about entrances. How many do I have to say? The more you feel how you're responding to the music, you will be affected. You will have a different entrance. Will the entrance be, will I sneak in, or will I forcefully enter with my theme, right? So that's another thing that tends to, and I love coaching. This is not something that I cannot tell the students, but it's more, I find it really fun to work when somebody has an opinion. Mm-hmm. When it's not just me telling them all, which I can do. I can be very bossy. But it's nice when we have a reflection and an opinion, a back and forth, a conversation. And then we can try different things. We're just not working necessarily on just the puzzle of it. The big puzzle, it becomes more about the artistic puzzle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And, it brings me back to growing up in Costa Rica, as a violin student. And, I was very lucky that, I had a fantastic violin teacher, Jose Aurelio Castillo, who's the concertmaster of the National Symphony there. But also I had a great pianist that, she would accompany most of us in my teacher's studio. And, many of our rehearsals, were with, my teacher is there, and it's like I'm getting a lesson from two amazing musicians, mm-hmm. right? And there was always that channel of communication, and I learned that I had a lot to learn from her.
Yeah. Yeah. Then for me, as a pianist, then who do I play with? You know what I mean? I'm a coach, but for pianists per se, who do we play with? I mean, we could play with our teachers if you're doing a concerto. but how do we pianists ourselves learn to become these kind of collaborative artists that have the sensitivity or the curiosity? Because not everybody, not everybody who plays piano wants to collaborate, maybe it's not something that draws them. For me personally, I feel very drawn to human interaction. So for me, teaching and collaborating with music, it's very wonderful. I mean, I obviously am an extrovert, so it takes me, out of the practice room into a more sort of shared experience, if you will. But similarly, as a pianist, I've learned a lot from other instruments. I learned a lot from playing with string players. I learned about, the bowing, the way they release a bow, how are your staccatos? Are they short? Are they not? How are you? Oh, okay. So I'm always just curious. And one of the things I say is curiosity is your first, is the first step to learning. You have to be curious. And so, come with questions to a rehearsal. Be curious.
Yes.
What makes that work? Oh, that's interesting, and so often I remember being a student, and just being like, I'm always asking, even students, I ask, how did you do that? And what do you need to do? I'll say, what do you need to do in your instrument to make that more that,
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, oh, it's breath, or it's that, or tongue, or this. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Because the more questions you have, we learn from each other. Music is just, music is sonic architecture. We just happen to play it through different mediums. I play it in this, piano, you play it on the violin, a singer would sing it, but it's all music. It's all ebb and flow and relationship between sounds, and so there's so many crossing over between two,
Yeah.
just all the same. It's just how you take your input.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important do, right? Be curious,
Oh,
ask questions, be inquisitive,
you
dig deeper.
dig deeper.
And you
Yeah,
know what? That's one of my favorite things about conducting and the score study process, the preparation process. Like there's always more that you can find.
yeah, yeah.
And the same goes for playing your instrument, and there's always more. If you have the drive and the curiosity to seek more, you will find more, and it,
Yeah,
it, it
why is
grows
there rest?
exponentially.
Why
Yeah.
is there a rest? Why is there sometimes, I say that, a piece of paper has so little. It's such a, what is the word they often use? It's such a rudimentary way of conveying emotion.
Yeah.
It's really just little ants sprawl upon, and we have these little cues, why is Beethoven putting a rest there? Or why is there, so, but you have to have the curiosity because, but that's just something that becomes, you know, with nurturing of good teachers and with experiences like orchestras and surrounding yourself with these and listening lots of recordings, listening to as many recordings as you can. Like when you're preparing for chamber music, just listen, play along with a chamber music recording. Play along with 4 different ones.
Yeah.
And make notes and listen, think about, what did I like, what did I not like? Because frankly, you have a right to not like something, right?
Yeah.
It's not like we're like, oh, everybody plays, sometimes you may disagree, and that's a good thing, because we want to have a personal opinion.
Yeah. Now let me ask you something, Maria. Did you go to a college or grad school specifically for collaborative piano? Is that
Oh, that's a good question. So no, so somebody asked me that the other day, or I mentioned something and I was thinking about that. But so I did my undergrad at New England Conservatory. And so, I just, I did all it was just for piano. But I just, I was drawn always to people asking me to play, hey, can you play my recital? Oh, sure. And New England is a massive school.
right?
I mean, that's like, there were like 200 pianists. I don't know, 300. I have no idea. And I played in the contemporary ensemble with John Hayes. And so I was always like, what ensemble, what can I do? You know what I mean? And then I went to Stony Brook. When I went to Stony Brook is the opposite of New England Conservatory. It's a very small school. It's mostly a graduate school. And there's like 40, maybe 50, 40 in university students. and then the rest live in New York City, or they're freelancers. They go and in and out. So that was a totally different experience, and it was great because being a small school and being a master's and a doctoral school, mostly everybody had to be giving recitals, and there were no staff accompanists. Like I remember at the New England Conservatory, there were staff accompanists, but at Stony Brook, there were no staff accompanists. It's like, so everybody knew, okay, what recital are you doing? And then it was great. I mean, I loved it because it was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go get I'm gonna go play Brahms cello sonata, and Tim Eddy is gonna coach us. Yay, okay, or like everybody, and they were so great. So even though I didn't get my graduate degrees in collaborative piano, I feel like I did.
Yeah.
Because I would play, there would be like, I would play at least one recital. At least sometimes, some days I would be like, I remember one time I played a clarinet recital, 2 clarinet recitals in one day, and I had similar pieces. Like, and I remember like, oh, what does, and I remember having like R and H, like in my music, like who took time here, who did.
Oh, right.
Like, who's what, So, so yeah, I think I didn't think that going to Stony Brook would turn out that way,
Yeah.
but it did, and it just kind of like, I mean, I just wanted to study with Gil Kalish. That was it, because that was a student that a teacher that I wanted to study with. So I was just like, I didn't care that it was like in Long Island, which is like, like in the deep woods of Long Island. I didn't care. I just wanted to study with him because I was really into contemporary music, and he recorded Concord Sonata. He recorded, he's sort of a guru of contemporary music. So I was just like, I'll go anywhere he is.
Yeah.
And so it just ended up like that. But no, my degrees are not in collaborative. But, it just ended up that way, which was great because it was like exactly where you need to be. You need to be in a place with people better than you, and constantly trying things out and failing, and being like, oh, and then keeping trying, and just being stimulated and, yeah, I remember all the pianists. I mean, I felt like, like a little, all the pianists were so magnificent. I was 20 when I went, so I was like really young, and everybody was like, oh my God, so good. Literally, like all the pianists, I was like, what am I doing here,
Yeah. Yeah. I think 2 things from that specifically. Number one, when you're curious and when you're exploring and when you put yourself in these situations, it's important to fail,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And learn from that. And number 2, the importance of surrounding yourself with, amazing people, to
It's
be
so,
inspired, to be motivated, and to learn from them.
yeah.
And yeah, and I love that this topic has become, sort of a recurring theme of these conversations that I've been having with amazing artists. How you're always a student, you're always learning, and take chances, be curious, and sometimes you will fail, but all of those times, I mean, the things that you learn makes it absolutely worth it. Now, look, I'm curious. I have a kind of oddly specific question for you, because you, as a collaborative pianist, you play a lot of reductions, right? It's orchestral music, reductions for piano. Do you have any favorite orchestrations, pieces that were originally for piano that have been orchestrated like the other way around? You know what I mean?
Pieces that are for piano that are principally for piano that are played in orchestra that I find that are better.
That, yeah, or
In
not
orchestra.
necessarily better, but just like, if you have any favorites.
Oh no, I mean, for example, any Ravel, like Laval's, you know what I mean? Any kind of like that, like I say there's pluses to orchestra, and then there's also cons and pros. So for example, something like which I love. I mean, I love Ravel, but like Vals Noble, the Vals Noble. I can't say it in French because my French although I speak it, I can't really say it well. The sentimental and and noble waltzes, right? So those are gorgeous or gorgeous on the orchestra, gorgeous. Like in the sounds or Ma Mère Loire, which is gorgeous. But because the orchestra you have such a mass of people, the ability to do rubato is not as accessible.
Sure.
Like if I'm playing La Valse, I'm just going to I'm going to take my time, and I know how I can manipulate all of it. But when you play with orchestra, generally speaking, as much as I love the timbre, I find that the sense of expression and give is a little bit less because of the nature of the communal, effort.
Of the instrument, like you said it earlier.
Yeah. So that I think I would say, I love, like, for example, is there anything more beautiful than the Brahms variations on a theme by Haydn? That is like the most beautiful piece of music. It makes me cry every time in that minor. I just like weep. And it's awesome for two pianos. Yeah. It is awesome, but we don't get that beautiful. I don't get the sound of a bassoon. Yeah. I don't get the sound of a flute. So there's those two that it's either or.
Cool.
They're unique to each other, and they can't. I don't think they substitute one another. I think they're unique onto themselves.
Cool. I love that. And you're going to play a little something for us, yes?
Yes. You wanted to do that now?
Yeah. Would you introduce it, and then we'll go right into it?
Good angle? Yeah? Okay. So I'm going to play the first two dances of the Bach French Suite. Number 5 is in G major. And I'm going to play the Allemande, and I'm going to play the Courante, and these are in binary form, so A, B. Usually the B is more ornamented. The repeat is more ornamented. And we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Thank you.
just learned that. Just learned that.
Okay, there you go. Brava.
I just
Very,
learned that
very nice.
yesterday, so I'm sorry if it sounded a little bit off, but
No. So everybody put your emoji hands together for
oh,
Maria. An ovation made up of emojis, of
oh, I
applause
feel
emojis.
it must be all my students. They really love me.
Uh, so by the way, after that, which was fantastic, I want to remind everybody watching that you can ask questions on the comments. If you have any questions for Maria, put them in the comments. I'm keeping track of them, and I'm hoping that we'll have time to ask you some of those questions.
Cool.
In the meantime, Maria, let's move away from our professional
Yes.
activities and let's talk a bit about you and what are you into in addition to
Are we
anything that
still
has to do with
are we
music.
doing the truth? Are we doing the truth and the lies yet? No, I
Uh,
did.
we'll reveal that in a little while.
Okay. So what am I into? I mean, like my hobbies.
Yeah, sure.
Time, if I have time, if I have had, I'm the mother of an 8-year-old, and I teach and I, perform, and I have very little time to do anything. But what am I into? I'm into comedy. I love to laugh. So I don't mean I'm not a comedian, although people sometimes tell me that I should be, but um, I love walks. I love nature walks, like if I can go hiking or anything, even just like walking in my neighborhood. I love it. I love listening to good documentaries, anything that that will inform me. And I love going to concerts, which I hope that we can all go back to doing our concerts. um I I love yoga. I don't do it as much as I used to, but in my 30s, I was really into yoga. So and I did it religiously. I mean, religiously meaning I'm interested in Chinese medicine. I am interested in alternative modes of medicine. I am, you know,
Let me ask you something. Let's go back to the comedy thing.
oh
What
yeah.
do you have a favorite format? Like, do you like movies or do you like stand up or like?
Well, I prefer. I mean, I like to laugh, so anything I really enjoy to laugh. But I love comedies, and I like stupid humor.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
stupider the better. Like for example, Dumb and Dumber are like
Sure.
they're some of my favorite movies ever. Or like there's something about Mary or Borat or like Bruno or Ali G, like Ali G show.
Yeah, yeah.
That for me was like 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 that whole Ali G series. I mean, I couldn't breathe, the kind that you can't breathe because it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah.
Do you have any? So the possibilities now with streaming services are endless, right? Like there's so many like also stand-up specials and
Oh,
just.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Do you have any shows you're watching these
yeah.
days?
I just, the funny, I also love I tend to like positive movies. Like I'm not a big horror fan. I can't stand that. But I just recently finished watching this really interesting series called Unorthodox. It's on Netflix. It's about a Hasidic woman from Williamsburg. It's based on the it part of it is it's based on the true story of a young Hasidic woman who leaves the sect, the community in Williamsburg. And she wrote a book about it. So I just recently saw it. I like sort of limited series because like I can't go into watching like something with 10 seasons, like games. I hear of Game of Thrones and I'm like, what? I've never seen a single episode, and so uncool. I really got into Anne with an E, which is the story of Anna Green Gables.
Okay. Is that
Which
also streaming currently or?
yeah, I don't have TV. I have a computer, but who has TV nowadays, right?
Right, right, right. Did you watch The Office? Are you a fan of The Office?
Oh my, the American or the English?
The American, I guess.
Oh my God, I love the American. I've seen every single episode. Like,
Yeah.
multiple times, like, but it aggravates me. That's the kind of humor that aggravates me. Like
Right.
sometimes it's not even funny because it's so aggravating. Like you're like, are you that stupid?
Yeah, and it makes you uncomfortable, and it's just this kind of awkward humor. And my wife Sarah, she's a big fan, and she watched the whole thing maybe more than once, and I only ever watched like random episodes here and there. So over the last few months, I've been in a kind of slow and gradual, you know, uh, I'm getting through the whole show basically.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
For the first time. So I'm right now towards the end of season 7, and I think especially season 7, the writing is so
Yeah.
genius. It's so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, my husband is a big fan of The Office, and we would watch it together a lot. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and so I also love like Battlestar Galactica. I mean, back like 10 years ago when that was like really. I mean, I think there's a Portlandia episode of like people watching Battlestar Galactica and they don't leave their house, like they lose their job, like they're like in their house,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
sequestered because it was so good. I don't know if you ever saw it. Or The Wire. That was great. The Wire was great. Did you ever see?
I never saw it, but it's the same producers. Wait, no, never mind. I never saw The Wire, but I do know that. I mean, I have many friends who got really into it, so
I mean,
maybe that should be on my list.
yeah, it's the kind of show that it doesn't even have music.
Mm.
And, I sometimes one of the things that annoys me most is like music on films because it's so. I don't like when it's manipulative. So I really love a film that has no music
Mm.
or something that has minimal amount of music because I'm like I don't need. I want to feel. I want to know. Especially as musicians, we really connect to music in a totally different way. And so The Wire has no music.
Yeah, and you know what? And we could connect this to music also, but just the value and the power of silence and
Oh my God.
space, right? And
Yeah.
you're right. Some of my favorite shows use music and sound design very intentionally, and they know, and they um, take advantage of the gigantic power that is in silence.
Yeah.
And
Did you see the movie A Quiet Place? Now I don't like horror, but I love that movie.
okay, yeah, no, I haven't seen it actually. I keep wanting to.
All silent. I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, it's like, wow. But the thing is that there's really scripts can be so bad that they just mask everything with music. It's almost
Right.
like a lot too much pedal when you play the piano. I don't know, because we want to hear what you have to play. You know what I mean? It's like I always say that pedal is like mayonnaise. You want to put it with a little with love and care. You don't want to just like smear it. You know.
Nice. Yeah. Cool. So, Maria, what do you say we go and reveal
Oh sure.
your truths and your lie? So, let me before we do that, just kind of take a quick look at the comments. And people, if you haven't voted yet, um, the three statements are up on the screen. Two truths and one lie. So if you haven't voted, go ahead and vote for which one of these three you believe is the lie. So I'm going up and I'm looking at the comments, and I see a bunch of A's and a bunch of C's.
That they think which one is they think
Pe-
the lie is
pe-
A
People think that your lie is either A
or
or
C.
C. I don't see any B's.
Oh, okay.
So it looks like people believe that you played in a high security prison. So let's go ahead and reveal your first truth. Which one of these is truth?
My first truth is I co-created a cheerleading squad in middle school. I think I don't remember exactly. I think it might have been ninth grade. But yeah, in my little town of Fajardo, which is a population of maybe 30,000 people in my town, and that's sort of like saying maybe it's even less. Yeah, there was no cheerleading team, and I remember me and a couple of my friends, we were like, well, we need to do this. I mean, and we were like, well, let's go to the fabric store. And so we went to the fabric store. Like we literally like asked our parents for money. We walked to the fabric store, and then we're like, well, can one of our moms like do this thing? And then we watched like videos on. I mean, it was like so. I mean, we did like maybe like three. I mean, literally, we did maybe three games, basketball games, and we had. I mean, it was just so silly. We had this little thing with the little pom poms, and I mean, it was hilarious. I mean, talk about like you could probably make a show out of that. That would be like hilarious.
Well, the most important question here is, are there pictures?
I do not have any that I know. Maybe one of my friends has. I'm sure some of my
That'd
friends.
be that'd be a blast probably to look at if there are photos of this and look back. Okay, so that is true. You did co-create a cheerleading squad in school. So people who voted A, I'm very sorry, but you were wrong.
Yeah.
But we'll give you a chance to cast another vote if you want. So let me remove that from screen. So it's not A. So either B or C. So let's go ahead and reveal your other truth.
So I did play in a high security prison once.
Yes.
Yes, I did. I think I was living in New York City, and my friend Eugene, I played for many years. He played in the ballet, and somehow there was a person within the ballet who had a relative or something who had been, sent to this prison. I think it was called, it starts with an A. I cannot recall now. But anyway, but my friend didn't tell me. My friend Gene did not tell me. He did not. Gene did not tell me that we were going. He just said we are going to play in jail. And then the day before, we were going to play like some Brahms trio. I was going to play some Granados, some Goyescas, the violinist, I remember it was Martha Kaplan. She was going to play something. We're going to do something. And he said, "Oh, by the way, we're going to play at a high security prison. Wear something." He said something, wink, wink. He said, wear something sexy. And I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?" And so I wore like a turtleneck up to here, and I was like, "Oh my God." And I remember like going through, and they were like, take this off. And the thing was that we played, and then it was the prison that the son of Sam, David Berkowitz, was in. He just didn't go to the concert that day because he was sick, or he was, he had like a cold or something. But yeah, I mean, this is like a high security prison, like, you name the crime. And then we had
Wow.
a group of them, and I was like, okay.
And is that something they did like often? Like were there concerts there on a
Well,
regular
this
basis? Or?
person, my friend Jean's friend, had started this in particular because there was this person that was connected to friends of theirs, so they wanted to bring that to
Yeah.
the. I mean, I didn't have a pro. I mean, I was. It's the shock value, it's
Yeah,
intense,
yeah,
and also like music is very. Talk about music being very. It's very personal.
yeah.
It's very, very personal. You give your heart, and you feel, you're in this, and you're like, oh my God, this is kind of it feels dangerous. There's security guards, like, ready. And I'm like, okay. They were all very nice, all
Hmm.
very nice. But I didn't, go and ask them like, and what are you here for? And
Right. Yeah.
do, after the fact, I did ask the lady who was walking us back, the security officer, and I said, can you tell me some of the crimes these people have committed?
Yeah.
And she then told me a little bit of a list, which
Well, talk about being out of your element, and still being able to share your music. So, anyway, so that's true. You did play at a high security prison, and that leaves statement C as the lie. So no four languages fluently.
no, I speak obviously Spanish and English. I understand Italian quite well, so I could read, I could read a newspaper in Italian.
Yeah.
I can read, little kids' books in French, like, board books, but I am not
Yeah.
fluent. No.
Yeah, you threw a curveball here because earlier you said something about speaking French.
Yeah, I did,
Uh,
and then I realized, oh, and then I said, well, I don't pronounce it very well.
yeah. So and a couple of people fell for that. So, anyways, so two languages, same here. And I used to be pretty good at French actually because that's what I took in high school, all of high school. And then, just like anything, you don't use it, you don't practice it, it just kind of starts going away. That's one thing I've been wanting to pick up with all the extra time we have, right?
Yeah, especially with a small child, right?
Yeah. Okay, so Maria, before we let you go, our last little segment is something we call the plug, and this is where you get to, if you have any upcoming performances, I guess they would have to be online or anything at all that you want to bring attention to or share with everybody. This is that
So
space.
I wanted just quickly to tell you, what things I'm into. I just remember there's a YouTube channel called the Hot Ones, and they do interviews while you're eating chicken wings that are really, really hot.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I've seen a few videos,
Like
yes.
when the people are like crying, like, oh my God, my lips, I think I'm gonna
Uh,
die. So anyway, there's always a part at the end where it's the plug, so that brought to my mind. So yeah, I'm teaching. I am as soon as this COVID-19 is sort of under control, I'm hoping, we all the groups that I play with, I can make music again with my friends, Third Angle, 45th Parallel. My piano duo, I haven't seen Momoko. For my 20 Digitus duo, I haven't seen her. And we're working on some, hopefully doing some videos. And we also, come this summer, we'll see how it goes. But, we have submitted a application for a grant because we want to start a summer festival at Portland Piano. It's called Portland Piano Duo Festival.
oh,
We want
cool.
to make it, yeah, we want to make it a summer festival at present, just with us, like playing a concert and, commissioning works and also giving master classes, to in the medium that is piano for hands or two pianos. Classic Pianos is going to help, they're interested in sponsoring it. So that's going to be really beneficial to, because as pianists, you don't often get to play chamber music, but you can learn so much, from playing with, about breath in particular, when you sit next to another person right next to you and you have to coordinate. So that'll hopefully, we have a website, 20digitusduo.com. That's 20. We changed it from the formerly known as 2X's. 20 Digitus, Digitus duo.com. And so that we're hoping for an August 21st, 22nd date. And it would be at Sauvie Island at a beautiful farm.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So, it's just everything feels a little upended right now.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to that. That sounds really, really awesome. And I'm sure you'll be sharing about that on your social media, and we can stay in touch that way. Maria, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It's so great talking to you. I hope to see you and hear you in person
Yeah.
sooner
Yeah.
rather than later. And thank you for sharing your time with our the MYS community.
Yeah. Gracias. Many thanks. Merci beaucoup.
Yeah.
Molto grazie. Yeah, I can say that in four languages.
Y saludos a tus papás si todavía están viendo.
Me imagino que sí. Un
Yeah.
abrazo.
Ok, bueno, chao, gracias.
Bye bye.
Okay, everybody, just another amazing person, Maria Garcia. We're so thankful to her for taking time to do this. So, just a quick wrap up here because we have to go to the MYS Gala that will start streaming at 5:30 p.m. in 25 minutes. Go to the MYS website for the link, and it's going to be great. A few just incredible guests next week. Nancy Ives from the Oregon Symphony, Juan Felipe Molano from the Seattle Youth Symphony, Jennifer Arnold, formerly of the Oregon Symphony, now in the world of artistic planning, and Johannes Moser, you guys, is going to be our guest on Friday, April 10. And this is going to be a morning show, 11 a.m., because he's in Germany. So he's going to join us from his home, and we're going to hang out with him, and we're going to, get his two throats in a lie, and he's going to play for us, and it's going to be super fun. So thank you again. Please go to the MYS Gala, you guys. Bid on my bench, yeah, and bid on everything else too. And if you go to the live stream, you will be able to watch the world premiere of our music video with symphony orchestra. So thank you again to all of you. See you at the gala in a little bit. I leave you with a little Bach Goldberg variations with Glenn Gould performing.